Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. Welcome to a beautiful day out here on the Missouri River. I was going to follow up the last one with a second video on bugging out to public land, public locations, because I had a couple of great questions from Rob and somebody else, and I'm sorry that I don't remember who it was. But they had good questions about, how do you get there? What's the morality of bugging out to public land? And what do you do when other people, show up and kind of have an equal say about it and want to come in? And so those were great questions, and I'm going to probably do that tomorrow or as soon as I get around to the next one. But we're up here today. We're taking a little road trip. Came up to Parkville, Missouri. And it's a beautiful place up here. Behind me, you see the Missouri River. They call the mighty Mo, and sometimes it's mightier than others. The water's down a little bit. We've had a pretty dry summer. The Missouri starts clear up in, I think, Montana somewhere. Comes across the Dakotas, could be why I forget, but up where it starts you can step across it, and then it comes across the Dakotas and down through on the eastern side of Nebraska, and it comes down here through the Kansas City area. Of course, it drains all of the northern plains and finally goes into the Mississippi down by St. Louis. I had thought about doing this one time when we were up in Iowa and on a river that drains into the Mississippi, because it's something that I've covered a little bit in, I think, my fourth book that just came out on Appeal to Heaven. I talk about somebody using a river as a bug out, as a way to escape the area that they're in. But that didn't drain into the area to where we would want to come back, so I didn't. Anyway, using waterways as a bug out route can be great, can be problematic. It just kind of depends. But it's something that I consider. It's a part of my overall. I won't call them plans. I'll call them. Contingency is a part of a PACE plan, but I would consider them a part of my considerations. Okay, the good and the bad about using waterways as a bug out situation, and of course this is not in I don't consider bugging out to be an option, a viable option, unless it all goes down the drain. It's not what we're dealing with here now, and these little rioting that are going on. That's going to be taken care of in due time, and I'm going to do another one on that here pretty soon. But it's when everything goes down the drain, okay? And you need to get from where you are to someplace better, and the someplace better is a good distance away. And you can use the waterways as a consideration in where do you want to think about it. Where's a location that you want to bug out to? The goods, and I'm not going to cover everything in detail here. It would take me forever to cover the goods and the bads of using waterways. The goods are that you can move a lot down a substantial waterway like the Missouri River, even smaller rivers, in a good amount of time. You're working with the current. Now, going upstream is not a viable option. Not very good anyway, unless you got some pretty good power in your boat. But usually you want to think about going downriver. Use the current. It's something that you can, depending on the situation, use 24/7. You can get on that river, and as long as you stay in the channel and you got a boat with a fairly shallow draw, and what that means for anybody who may not know is that your hull's not going down too far into the water, because these rivers can be treacherous. They really can. A little 11-year-old girl was drowned just upriver here well, I think it was over in the the Kansas River dumps into the Missouri River just west of here over on the Kansas side. And if I remember the story, it just happened a few days ago. I think they were playing down by the river, and somebody kicked the ball into the river, and she just went in to get it. And it doesn't take going out more than a couple of feet for these rivers to have currents that'll take you right under. I had a friend of mine years and years and years ago on the sheriff's department. He was on the underwater rescue and recovery team. He was a scuba diver on that team, and he went in to save some people. He'd done it many times. There was a place over east of here someplace that was kind of, there was another tributary that led into the Missouri River, and it caused kind of, I'm not sure what the correct term is, but it caused a very treacherous type of current, and he went in there trying to save somebody, full scuba gear and everything, and he drowned because it sucked him under and did not let him come back up. So when you're on a river, especially a river of any size, you want to be in a very stable vessel. The story that I told in An Appeal to Heaven, it was about some people escaping out of Iowa and coming to Kansas City. They were in a john boat. It can be done on a john boat, but you know, the bigger the better in those cases. Anyway, a river, the goods about it, you can travel a long ways over a certain number of days. You're probably not going to be blocked in by traffic. You're not going to be stopped by people. Now, you know, I mean, in the old days there was pirates on the river, right? We don't have too many pirates around anymore. In a grid down situation, a total collapse, I'm sure that will come back, but you have to be prepared to take care of yourself. What I would suggest, you know, if you've got any kind of boat, you can do it, but my suggestion is a pontoon boat for a number of reasons. You can put a lot of people on them. You can put a lot of stuff on them. You can put a lot more stuff on a decent sized pontoon boat than you can load up in your excursion in a trailer. And if you're going somewhere that you know to offload, you can take, you know, pretty much everything that you would want to for a survival situation. The other thing, well, like I said, is most people aren't going to be looking at the rivers in the first few days after a collapse. And that kind of goes back to what I'm going to talk about when I talk about using public lands as a bug out location, and that is, the first consideration is get there in time. And that's a matter of being tuned in. You know, most of the world in a real collapse situation, like in my books, it's going to take them a while to first off to recognize what happened, and then to come to terms with it, and then, you know, it's the old OODA loop thing, and then to decide what they're going to do it, and then to try to, you know, get everybody agreeing on what to do, and then you're going to have fragmentation. And by the time most people have an idea of what they're really going to do and try to do something about it, if you are tuned in, you're going to be days and days ahead of them. So that's what you want. You want to be the first to recognize it, the first to get going, get to where you want to be, and then if everything's fine, okay, you can go home. You know, but being the first out there and the first either on the road or on the water is going to be 90% of your battle. So a good pontoon boat, first they have a shallow draft. They usually run on fairly small. You don't have to use a big engine to navigate a pontoon boat, so you'll have plenty of, you know, if you have some gas on there, if you got some gas on board, 10, 20 gallons get you a long ways because you're using the current of the river. Something like this, a waterway this size, you staying out in the middle is going to keep you away from the reach of the people who may be on shore who want to, you know, get out to you, unless they're shooting at you, and probably not going to be the first few days. They're not going to go out there and be able to bother you very much. So in that case, the bigger the better. For those of you, if you've ever seen the Mississippi, boy, that's a big one, you know. And you out in the middle of the Mississippi, if you're going down that way, you know, say if you were going from here to Memphis. Now, Memphis is not a place that you would want to get out at, but any place around the city. But if there was some place that you wanted to go that was close to there, once this goes into the Mississippi around St. Louis, and anywhere then south of that, you're going to have a large river that if you stay out in the middle of, you're going to be, in pretty good shape from any attacks from the shore. So those are a couple of the good things, and like I said, I could go on for a long time, longer than you'd want to listen to me, about the good parts of a river. The bad parts, well, I won't say the bad parts, the challenging parts are, of course, the river itself. The river can be treacherous. There are snags. These rivers are full of riverboats, and actually the fields around here are full of riverboats that hit a snag, went down in the river, and then as the course of the river has changed over the last 100, 150 years, 200 years, those boats are being found in the middle of somebody's cornfield, right? Because the river has changed its course, and the silt filled up where the river used to be, or it was changed, by man to make a more navigable waterway. So these places are full of riverboats that went down because they hit a snag. Just logs underneath the river could tear out the bottom of a boat. Secondly, is you're limited to where you're going to go. It's not like you're on land and you see something ahead of you that you don't want to come up on, and you go, oh, let's take this side road. Let's get out there and try to go around it. No, if you're on a river and you've got all of your stuff on board and you see something up ahead that looks like some people are going to be trying to block you, there's no getting off the river and, okay, let's get all of our stuff on our backs. Unless it looks like a real emergency. You'd have to go over and tie up your boat and leave your boat, and then you're in a position of having to defend your boat or making a stand right there. Or you can take your shot and go down there and meet up whatever's down, that you think might be trying to stop you, and see whether they'll take a couple of 100 pounds of rice to let you through, because that's the kind of stuff that would happen after a while. Or if you're going to have to fight your way through, and what you think your chances are on that. That depends on who you've got in your party. You got some pretty good gunmen? Do you have some fighters? Do you have a bunch of kids? You don't want to, you don't want to risk those types of people. And then it's a matter of, okay, well, we're going to run this into the bank, and everybody get everything on your backs that you can, and let's hoof it into the hills, into the woods. And then you're back to where you're hoofing it. So that's a bad part of a river, are the treacheries of the river themselves. And people who might, if they get onto the river, want to stop you. Your options are fairly limited. Anyway, that's where we are today. I did want to throw that out there. Make sure, that the river's going where you want it to go, because you pretty much have to go where the river wants to go. And I know, you can get on speedboats and things like that, and they can go upstream, but if you're carrying any kind of load, you're going to need a boat that's big enough, like I say, a platform boat, a pontoon boat, that you're not going to have big horsepower motors pushing you up river. But it is a nice life. I tell you what, river life and lake life are much different than wood life and prairie life. I do talk a little bit about, in my fourth book, about lake communities. I think they're going to be interesting communities in a grid down situation, and I think that will happen one of these days. They're going to be totally different than a community around a city, or a community out in the plains or up in the woods. And lake life, water means life, and the closer you are to some live water, the better off you're going to be. Live water meaning flowing water. It could be a river, could be a year-round creek, could be springs. Right there behind, you're going to hear a train. Well, I'll wait for just a second. I think, if I didn't say this before, we're in Parkville, Missouri. It's a picturesque little town on the Missouri River, just north of Kansas City. And it's a little old. It's one of those kind of destination towns that they've made all cute and stuff, and people go to go to specialty kind of shops and it's a beautiful place. So the train still goes right down through the middle of town. So I think that's about all I'll say on that. Consider, if it fits in with your plans. Like I said, there's a lot to keep in mind, and you can think of your own options, but think of Waterways as being one of your bug out options. And we're going to go into town. Now we're going to find a nice little place to have lunch and just enjoy the rest of the day. So I hope you all are too. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And part of preparing well is maximizing options. It's all about options. The more options you've got, the better off you are. So include this in one of yours if it's suitable for you. And I will talk to you all later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.